And so what I've done is take foam. I've measured 1/2 inch in between all these cuts, and I've put VELCRO. And so what I can do is wrap this around a cylinder like this. This is pretty beefy because I want to go kind of deep today, but you would want to be thinner. And so what you can do then is this will give. It's pretty cool. So, and I made a big one so you guys can keep that here and use it. But let's say you decide, okay, I want it to be cinched in around the middle. You take this other piece of VELCRO, attach it, and I kind of do the 1/3, 2/3 sort of generally. But then what happens is you can take a balloon, just a regular latex balloon, put it in there, and then it'll blow up, and you can then take your hand and kind of press it outward. And so it'll give and do some really cool shapes. And so this is made the same way. Have you guys ever seen this kind of thing? No? This is a really good, fun thing.
Balloon in there?
A balloon, and that kind of expands it to get it even. So I'll do the balloon here, and then I'll flip it, and then I'll do the balloon again here.
So the clay is in there.
The clay is in here.
And then you blow the balloon and put it inside the clay to
And and then I can, if I want it more dramatic, I can like press it more and more and more.
Well, yeah, you can do it yourself.
You could do it yourself if you don't want to use a balloon too.
And then you put bottom on?
And then I put the shaped bottom on, which I've done here. And what I do is just cut it and then place my slab. Slab has to be pretty wet. And then score and slip, obviously, before you attach it. And then you'll get a nice foot like that. It kind of raises it a little bit, and I think it elevates your design. And then I just put, now you can always wax resist, but
Yes.
I'm doing the same cleanup with with the sponge, so I might as well just, now, my basic students, I highly recommend they use wax resist. But what I've noticed is that people get a little confused about using wax resist. In my beginning class, they think that as long as they put wax resist, they don't have to ever look at the bottom of their piece again. The other thing I've seen people do, it's okay, is they will glaze and then they'll say, okay, now I'm ready to put my wax resist on. Shaped bowl is snow on the base, not that one.
Yeah, that other
Yes,
funny
that
thing.
other, that burgundy one.
Yeah.
I think that really lightens it up too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like that. Then I'm gonna go smaller in between here to the next one. And then I'll move on to the next kind of like circle. Let's say this is the edge of a bowl. What you can do is like oval, like that. Let's say this is the side of your bowl, not side, the inside, like right here. And it's gonna kind of get narrow. Press it, but then you can kind of rock it to where you get an oval shape. We're gonna use the same size to get a really quick little second coat. Does that help?
Yep.
I'm going to use light flux. I always put this on here to remind myself that it runs. If you're using it by itself, it doesn't really run that much. Now, when you put it on top of things or under things, that's when it's gonna run. a lot.
It's pretty thin.
It does, okay. I wouldn't do that because it's so thin that when you would try to do this, and that's real thick. So I'm gonna let that dry for a minute. I also sometimes will have a fan that I can, do that with. You see what I'm doing? It's taking a little longer to dry.
You have a fan in the back.
Yeah, I'm really being generous. It's kind of larger. What I'm trying to do is just like even this out, which I shouldn't really worry about that, but I am.
So you're not going all the way up to the edge on it?
Nope, you don't have to. It'll move. You mean the bottom edge?
No, the top.
Oh, the top? No, you don't have to. It's really, that's a preference. Personal preference. Can you guys see what I'm doing? It's okay. Now, if you're using, I think brushes, using a really spruce it up, but in the PowerPoint, it shows you exactly what I used where. And it'll show you previous to when I put this over all of it so you can see clearly. So I've got arrows and everything. Yeah, no problem. That way it's a little bit more easy to follow, I think. Running hot chowder. Correct. They do. They're gonna do different things. So that running hot chowder blooms, and that's what creates that really cool pattern. You'll get something different if you use a different type of flux, but which you might like or not like. I say experiment, but the running hot chowder is really mainly what people use for the frozen pond. And the light flux is gonna run to give you the peacock. And both of those techniques are in the PowerPoint with really clear instructions and pictures. So you can see what I'm doing. I don't know. Okay. So I'm gonna set that to the side. I'll do a green here, all around. Let's spruce it up. That green. Let me use this.
And what color is that one?
Spruce it up.
And they both come rich.
Great.
How many coats of your color do you put down?
I'm putting 2 to 3 for the dots. Drawing in between. What do you mean? Drawing in between. Yes, drawing. Yep, absolutely. Any. No, you're good. Anything you put glaze, underglaze, you always want to make sure it's dry. And the reason for that is because if you're going over it when it's still wet with another coat, you're really just taking off that previous coat, and you're not adding any more material, right? So if you're not waiting for your glazes to dry in between putting another coat on it, you're just removing that or just keeping it the same thickness. Does that make sense? And the other, let's say you're one of those people that love to go over and over and over. And if you're using a stiff brush, it's removing that. It's re-wetting that first layer. So you just want to keep that in mind when you're glazing. Just try to get it even. Yep, I started out with my obsidian base, 2 coats of obsidian, running hot chowder. We'll do 2 coats of that, and then we'll put 2 coats all over of, and then you're better off. Okay, so let's pick another color. Let's do grapple. Grapple, it's SCO13. You can use other ones. Winterwood or river birch is another one people use. If you go on the Mako website, they have a ton of different options, like combinations. I recommend doing that. No, there's no crystals in it. These, yes, there are crystals. it sort of gives an effect for the area that doesn't have any, but there's also Celadon Bloom. Some of those people have used. So if you don't like that, I kind of like using both. It's nice to have both, that variation on there. So, okay. A lot of this is going to be really your personal preference on what you like. So you can see in the middle and on the outside, it's sandstone by itself.
Okay.
And you can see oh yeah, you could try that. I would do it. Yeah. I love that one and the jade. I just bought those. I'm going to have a pot. I'm excited to put that on. What is cool is that Trinity just had a re-grand opening. I don't know if you guys have been there lately, but the Mako guy was there for that a few weeks ago. And I was talking to him about that whole line. And I noticed on the pamphlets that he was handing out with the micro pearl line, all of that stuff, it can be taken up to cone 10. And the results were pretty different too. I know. Well, it's really great, very stable. So I was impressed. Okay, so I've done these in the corners, kind of like what I did here. I like to do that. So the blue yonder, that's like interesting. Yeah, blue yonder. I like both. So this one is Rosy Posy, and then this one is Melancholy. Rosy Posy. I don't think this is really a preference for you guys. I mean, just whatever you prefer. I mean, personal preference. Melancholy. SC2 is Melancholy. And then SC018, Rosy Posy. These are really thick dots too, just FYI. They are very thick. I did in the pictures, in the PowerPoint, you'll see that I did have some running, and that's okay. This is keeping track of what you've put where. The more, you might want to write it down. Yeah, you might want to write. So what I did is I actually draw my little, just a quick sketch, and then I can put, okay, this is little codes or little the numbers, so that I don't mess up. Dandelion SC24. So look what I can do if you're not. This works well too. Put dots. This reminds me of that dot candy where you would end up eating quite a bit of paper and
That you put on this.
Oh, it comes in a pint as well. And what I did is just use a spoon to put it in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Color last. Any other? I'm gonna do Capri Blue again. So what I did here, I kind of like when it repeats. So it's Capri Blue's here, and then it's also here. I have an extra little swoop, so I made a little boo-boo on my design. And that's what happens when you're talking. But what I'm going to do is just pick a color right here. And it should have been a swoop like that, but it wasn't. So that's okay. I'm going to put another one of these little dots, little pink. Light flux, and it's this one. Light flux, yeah. And the dots are dry, so we can go ahead and put our second coat on that. Kind of like what I did here. I like to do that. So then we'll come back. Ollie. But okay, this is little little codes or little the number dot. Well, I'll wait on that. Okay, what color last? I'm gonna do Capri Blue again for the base. So you'll notice on that piece that my demo, I haven't put any base layer, right? I just have done the swoops, the dots of color. I think the stroke and coats work really well for that, but I did use Mako Marigold. So water etching is a really fun technique where you're using wax resist, and the wax resist that I'm using is Trinity. This wax resist. Aftusa is the name of it, but it's the Trinity brand. wax resist. You can also use shellac. You can also use a Mako, has a brand of wax resist. Any of that stuff will be fine. Because if it's too wet, then when you're putting pressure to remove some of that clay, it's going to move around. So you don't want that. Getting to later leather hard. Medium. Let's right at leather hard. Not early, not late, right in the middle. I wish I had, maybe I can cut a piece off this. I'm getting a little deeper in some of these areas, but that's okay. Okay, now this is where, can you guys see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
There you go. Does that help?
Yeah.
So then what I would do is kind of refine some of these like areas that are a little, that got kicked up.
Wax resist.
This is wax resist, yep. So this, what I'm doing is pressing on this with my finger to put that grog back in there. And although you can see it, the texture is so much softer. So when you glaze it, you're not gonna have that rough kind of base. You can just keep taking it off depending on how deep you want it. I'm gonna paint on some areas so you can see. The tricky thing with this technique is that your clay is wet, so if you're used to putting on wax resist on a bisque piece, that's gonna dry much faster than if you're putting on a wet clay, right? So you need to have more time to let it dry. So I put this on last night, and the way that I did that was just a cookie cutter. So anything that makes a fun shape, I just kind of rocked it on there, and then I couldn't find anything else. But this top is a little bit green, but I just pressed it in, and then I painted on the inside of this area right here. You can see where there's wax in there. With anything that you're using, any kind of wax, shellac, that spray shellac, it's gonna come off if you rub hard enough. Now this clay, I'm using Trinity white stoneware. And the more, you've probably discovered this, the more that you use a sponge, the more the grog comes out. And so grog is a material that is added to a clay body to give it building strength. And you can get different size grog for pieces. So I'm just sort of removing this, being careful.
We do that raccoon with Connor.
Okay, so
Oh, cool.
the middle part that you're doing that with, what are you removing?
Some clay. It's just bare
Oh,
clay.
just clay. So
It's
you're
just
using
bare
Make
clay.
it an indent.
I'm just making an indent.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm gonna start to work
Wax
around.
resist.
I did not do wax resist right here. I only did it this
Okay.
outside area.
Okay.
So that's gonna stay raised. So whatever I put wax resist on, that shouldn't be removed, or I'm wanting to keep that by itself. And you can also use wax resist when you're glazing. Has anybody done that? Like if you want an area to not get other glaze on it that you've already glazed, you can put wax resist because that wax resist melts off. It's going to be very difficult to keep your depth, I think. So, you can do as much removal as you want. You can control that. And then while that is, I'm letting that sit for a minute, I'm going to just freehand some other wax designs on the side so you guys can see how long it takes to dry.
Okay.
Whatever you put under that wax is going to stay there. I feel like my husband's not very gentle with things. So, I'm kind of surprised it's survived. Okay. Let's go back to removing some things and then I'll go back to this. When you go around things,
I'm heavy.
So you might have to stop and the grog starts to come out. Now, if you're using a finishing sponge, it's better than geometric, I think. Like easier because you can like swoop, you know? And if you have like hard squares, that would be pretty difficult to get out. So I'm just gonna kind of do some scrubbing. So if you scrub really hard, what's gonna happen is your, and it's really delicate, like, I mean, light at first, right? But if you're scrubbing over it, over the wax a lot, that grog is being carried from on top of your surface and it's removing that wax. It's like not a lot of clay. You know, if it doesn't work out, oh well. What I've been doing lately is making porcelain flowers. That was a piece that I made, basically like an upside down bowl, like a wall piece, with porcelain flowers, and that's been really fun. And I've been using the same techniques that fondant people that working with like big fondant